Hey, what's up, Hello News family? Welcome to another episode of Can We Talk, our show where we talk to dope people in the community doing dope things, and today is no different. I'm so excited to have our next guest on. She has a really amazing book that I think you guys should know all about. So without further ado, I would like to welcome to the show, Michelle Hollinger. Hey, what's up? Welcome to Hello News.
Hey, Janey, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me. I've actually been following you for a while and just, keeping up with the work that you do in the community here. And so I'm so excited to have you on the show today. So thank you for joining me.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's an honor.
Thanks. So you have a really, really amazing book that you just launched. And the thing that caught me was the title of the book. And I was like, I gotta have her on the show. I gotta understand what this book is about and what inspired it. And so I'll let you tell the audience about it. Tell them the name of the book and why you decided to write this book.
Okay, so the name of the book is Understanding Crack-ers, and the subtitle is A Spiritual Approach to Comprehending Why Some White People Are So Hateful. And if you'll notice, the word crackers has a hyphen in it, and the hyphen is very, very significant. The explanation for why I wrote the book has to do with my spiritual journey. I've been on a spiritual journey for a really, really long time. I've served as a prayer chaplain at 2 New Thought centers in Miami. And as a part of my spiritual development, my spiritual understanding, one of the things that I've been taught and that I embraced is that we're all spiritual beings having this human experience. And so my understanding of that is that spiritual law doesn't pick and choose. Spiritual law applies to everybody, right? And I need to understand things. In order for me to wrap my brain around it, I have to understand it. Right. It has to land in my spirit, it has to land in my soul, and I have to be able to make sense of it. The one part of that spiritual being, that we're spiritual beings having this human experience that I could never really wrap my mind around was as it relates to hateful white people. So as it relates to somebody like George Zimmerman, as it relates to somebody like Derek Chauvin, as it relates to the Karens who call the police on little girls who are trying to sell lemonade and things like that, as it relates to hateful police officers who do heinous things to Black people instead of treating them with dignity and respect as they're capable of doing for everybody else, right? So in my mind, I'm like, okay, so if we're all spiritual beings having this human experience, and that also applies to them, help me make sense of that. I don't understand that. And so over the years, I would grapple with that. And then I would just let it go because I couldn't make sense of it. The answers wouldn't come. And about last year, maybe a year and a half ago, I'm grappling with it again. It surfaced up in my consciousness and I'm trying to make sense of it. And the idea that there's a crack in their consciousness just kind of lodged in my consciousness. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Wow.
That kind of makes sense, because if we're all spiritual beings having this human experience, some people, the way they show up in the world is not indicative of them being a spiritual being. It's like they have no access to that part of their being that is filled with goodness, that is filled with love, that is filled with joy. That's where all the goodness comes from. It comes from our spiritual nature, right? So I'm like, okay, so how is it that George Zimmerman can be a spiritual being, but he did what he did? I'm not even going to speak words to that, but the thing that lodged into my consciousness was that, okay, they are spiritual beings. Donald Trump is a spiritual being. Ted Cruz is a spiritual being, but they have a crack in their consciousness. They don't know who they really are. And then you couple that with this fallacy, this lie that they've been convinced of, that they've been taught for centuries, that they're superior.
Yes.
And then you couple that with the idea that in order to protect their superiority, they have to oppress, they have to murder, they have to subjugate other people, which really nullifies the idea that you're superior, because if you're superior, it stands on its own. You don't have to do anything to anybody else to protect your superiority, right? And so as when that idea just kind of awakened in my consciousness, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That explains how people can spend their entire life living from hatred, living from ignorance, living from this self-perpetuating permission that they give themselves to always live from violence and to always be in that space, which has to be exhausting for them, right? But as it started to just kind of formulate in my mind and the book started to flow, the floodgate opened and all of this content poured out. I'm like, oh my God, this is a book, because this really, really, truly explains that they are spiritual beings. We all are spiritual beings having this human experience, but they have a crack in their consciousness that prevents them from even knowing that they have goodness inside of them, right? And so the book is actually about races who inflict so much harm, on humanity. But it's a love letter to Black folk, because the thing that I want us to also be mindful of is that we are also spiritual beings having this human experience, right? And like Toni Morrison said, racism is a distraction. And it is. Because as long as we are pouring our energy into trying to fix them or trying to get them to behave and do the right thing, that's energy that we could be using for ourselves to manifest our best lives. That's energy that we could be pouring into our communities and to, living lives that we're meant to live, right? As long as we are trying to navigate their unlevel playing field that wasn't built for us anyway, we're not mindful of the fact that we are actually unlimited, that we are, as spiritual beings having this human experience, we have access to an unlimited field of potentiality that we don't tap into as long as our energy is focused on dealing with them. And we've been fighting against racism for how long now? And we're still dealing with some really horrendous things we're still dealing with, right? And so that's why I wrote the book. I wrote the book because it finally made sense to me that yes, indeed, we're all spiritual beings having this human experience. But I also wrote it because I recognize that race is this intractable thing in this country. And the people who spend the most, I won't say the most time, but we spend an inordinate amount of time consciously and subconsciously dealing with racism. I think Black people, because of the nature of this country and the history of this country, it's just normal for us to have racism on our minds every doggone day, right? And so I want us to be intentional about reclaiming our power, reclaiming our energy, because when you think about everything that we've been able to accomplish in this country under these circumstances, it really blows my mind, because we are an astonishing people. That we've been able to do everything that we've been able to do under these circumstances. I'm like, oh my God, can you imagine what else we can do when we pull back our energy from fighting against them, from dealing with this distraction that Toni Morrison said, from trying to get them to be, they have to be the ones to eradicate racism. They have to be the ones to start to behave differently, because they want this society to be a better place. I want us to realize how powerful we are. I want us to realize that as awesome as we have already been, we really just scratched the surface. There's so much more that we can do as Black folk. There's so much more that we can do. And I believe that when we embrace that we're spiritual beings having this human experience, and we do that collectively, what Black America looks like 50 years from now is mind-blowing. Because if we keep doing what we're doing right now, fighting against them, we're going to continue to fight against them, because spiritual law says that whatever you place most of your attention on is what expands. And so we know that, it's necessary to do what's necessary to eradicate racism. But the approach that we're taking is not really moving the needle the way that we want the needle to be moved. And so it's time for us to embody a whole different approach. And that different approach has to do with our mindset and reclaiming our energy, reclaiming our power, and using it on ourselves and each other.
Man, that was amazing, Michelle. And I love how you broke down, especially the title of the book, because like I said, that's what drew me in. So can you share with us in the audience, what are some of the themes that you're going over in the book that people can look forward to?
So one of the first things that I address in the book is my reinterpretation of the word cracker. So it has a hyphen in it. Again, a hyphen is significant. And so I talk in the book about who is a cracker, because all white people are not crackers. And so I go into different categories of crackers. There's some nation crackers, like people who are crackers without like really being intentional about causing harm. If you look at some of the pictures from way back in the day when Black people would be lynched, and you look in the crowd, and there would be little children there, little white children there with their parents, watching these horrendous acts being inflicted upon their fellow citizens, right? Those are nation crackers. Those are crackers in training who, based on how what their parents exposed them to, they start to learn all of these horrendous things, right? Then you have benign crackers who hate Black folk, hate folk who are unlike them, but they never take any action on it, right? And then you have malignant crackers. Those are the Derek Chauvins of the world. Those are the George Zimmermans of the world. Those are the crackers who live from that hatred, and they go about inflicting that harm upon other people, even taking other people's lives, based simply on their hatred of somebody else because of the color of their skin. They could have all of this just vitriol inside of them without having even met somebody, right? Those are malignant crackers. And so that first chapter really goes into that, because I really want people to be clear that I'm not calling all white people crackers. Abolitionists were not crackers, right? The people who marched during the civil rights movement, along with Black people, they were not crackers, right? They were allies. And there are a lot of allies in existence today who are not crackers. And so it's important for us to make that distinction. And that's the real significance of the hyphen, to indicate that there's a crack in their consciousness that prevents them from showing up and being who they really are. Who they really are is, a spiritual being, again, having this human experience. One of the other things in the book has to do with me questioning whether, okay, so can the crack be mended?
And I was going to ask you, do you present solutions in the book to amend these broken spiritual beings?
So you know what? The crack can be mended. The crack can be healed by a number of different things. But the primary factor that can help a cracker to heal that crack in their consciousness is love, right? And one of the examples that I use in the book goes back to when Oprah Winfrey had her show a long time ago, and she had this older white guy on her show who was a racist. He was an older white guy who had been raised as a racist and was living as a racist, even then. His white daughter, started dating this Black guy, ended up getting pregnant, had a baby. That little Black boy did not see his grandfather as a white supremacist. He didn't see him as a racist. He didn't see him as a cracker. He saw him as granddaddy, and he loved him, right? And so over the course of that little boy's early years, his love started to chip away at granddaddy's hate. His love got beneath that hate, and it resonated with what's really inside of his grandfather. His grandfather started to shift his perspective about Black people and realize that a lot of what he believed wasn't true. A lot of these stereotypes and these myths that he had about Black people were things that were fed to him by other races, his parents and the people that he was around, and it wasn't based on any firsthand experience. Once he started to experience the love from his grandchild, it started to open him up in ways that he just did not anticipate. It started to make him more aware of his own biases and his own bigotry. And he started to make these shifts in his life, so much so that he and his wife ended up adopting 2 little Black boys out of foster care and raising them and adopting them as their own.
Wow.
That was like one of the most powerful stories that I encountered. The other story that I encountered, as I started digging around, I'm like, you know what? I need to see if this crack can be healed, right? There's this white dude. His name is Arno Michaelis, and Arno Michaelis is the poster child for a healed crack, right? Arno was the co-founder of the second largest white nationalist group in the country. Arno Michaelis was a skinhead. Arno Michaelis was about that racist, violent life. He was inflicting so much harm on Black people, on gay, anybody who didn't look or operate like him. He was like deeply entrenched in that life, right? But things started to happen that started to kind of peel back the layers for him and to start to poke holes in his belief system as it relates to racism, as it relates to holding on to all this hatred, towards Black people. Number one, he had a little girl. And when his daughter was born and he looked at her, he said one of the first things he thought about was, do I really want her to be subjected to the kind of hatred that I've been inflicted upon other people? The other
Wow.
thing that happened to him was, as he, went about his life as a skinhead and he was inflicting all of this harm on other people, some of them did not respond in kind. They responded from love. They did not allow his behavior to take them out of who they really were. One of his stories that cracked me up was when he was a skinhead, he also worked in IT. And so he said one night he and his skinhead buddies had gone out. They had been drinking because white nationalists really promote alcoholism. They want them drunk on hatred, drunk on alcohol, drunk on rage, right? Don't want to smoke no weed because weed make you think, which is interesting. Which is interesting. So he said he went out one night with his skinhead brothers and they had, just raised all kind of hell. Next day he had to go to work, but he was nursing a hangover. So he said he was in the break room nursing his hangover. So he slid down on the floor trying to get himself together. A black guy, a black coworker, walks into the break room, sees him, dealing with whatever he's dealing with, and says, "Here, skinhead, you want half of my sandwich?" He said it was that experience and many other experiences like that start to poke holes into his theory about who black people were. And he said he eventually just grew tired of it. And today, Arnold Michaelis is in charge of an organization that helps to promote peace, that helps to fight against racism, that helps other white nationalists who want to leave that movement get out of it. He meditates, which is a huge way to connect with your spiritual nature. If you line up 100 white nationalists, and I will bet money that not a one of them ever meditates. Because when you meditate, you come into the truth of who you are. They don't know who they are. They have no idea who they are. But Arnold Michaelis and that grandfather from Oprah Winfrey, and there are others like them, they prove that the crack can be healed, but they have to do the work. It's not anything that we can do for them. They have to do the work.
Nice. And so what are you hoping people take from your book? All the readers, what are you hoping that they take away after reading your book?
I really want Black people to take away from my book how powerful we are, and for us to give ourselves permission to reclaim our power, to reclaim our energy, and to not spend so much of it invested in dealing with racism. I want us to be more selective of what goes into our subconscious minds, right? They're going to release the video for Tyree Nichols' murder tonight. Mm-hmm. And I want to encourage us to consider whether we really want to watch it or not, because there's a way that we can still support that family. There's a way that we can still send love. There's a way that we can still help them to navigate, this horrendous experience without subjecting our subconscious minds to what happened to that young man, right? We have enough in our subconscious minds from the historical stuff and from the more recent stuff, George Floyd and some of the other things that we've seen that have become viral, right? I want us to become more protective of our subconscious minds, because it impacts our mental health. It impacts our health, our physical health. It impacts our overall well-being. We're the only group of people in this country that has to be subjected to witnessing our brothers and sisters being destroyed on a regular basis, right? Mm-hmm. And I want us to really embrace the idea that it doesn't mean that we love our brothers and sisters any less. It doesn't mean that we don't support them when we choose not to see, one of those violent videos. I also want I want Black folk to be mindful of the fact that this is our country, right? See, one of the things that has happened to us over the years, because of the way we've been treated and the way that we've been navigating our space in this country, is there's a tendency to almost kind of feel like we're foreigners on our own land, and to kind of wish, I wonder if there's someplace else we can go where it's cool always to be Black, right? I want us to embrace that this is our country. Our ancestors built this country. Yeah. Our ancestors built this country. I almost cursed. Our ancestors built this country. And a part of us, like, really owning our spiritual nature and really tapping into our own gifts and talents and living an unlimited life, manifesting at really high levels, is releasing the idea that this is not our country. Release that mess. Let's embrace that this is our country. Nobody else, no other nationality, even immigrants who come here and become citizens, embrace this as their country, right? I want us to do the same thing. Yeah, I want us to make the pilgrimage back to Africa because that's our homeland. I definitely encourage that we do that. But those of us who were born and raised here, I want us to embrace this as our country. There's so much power in that. They don't want us. They don't want us to embrace this as our country. They want us to continuously feel that, have the idea that there's someplace else that might be better for us. This is our country, and the more we embrace it, the more we hold on to our power and our energy. My favorite. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off. I was going to ask
That's
you,
okay.
what do you hope white people take away from from reading your book?
To really explore whether they're living their best life, right? Because crackers are not living their best life. Crackers live a distorted life based on hatred, based on lies about supremacy, based on lies about who we really are. A lot of them, there's some white folk who are crackers who have never met a black person, never had a one-on-one conversation with a black person.
It's crazy.
Some of them have no idea how much they have deprived themselves of greatness by not really understanding who we are. So I would really love and I met a white guy the other day that I gave this book to. And so I'm interested, we're going to have a conversation to see what he thought of it and to see, how it impacted him. He's an ally, so there's a difference. I don't expect it to be a huge turnaround for him. But for any crackers who happen to pick up the book, I want them to consider that they have not scratched the surface of understanding who they really are. And if they spend their entire life as a cracker, what a wasted existence. What a wasted existence that you never discover who you really were.
Yes. Michelle, thank you so much for breaking down your book and for joining us today and for writing this book. Congratulations. How can people buy the book? How can they connect with you online if they want to, learn more about you or just get more updates about what you're up to? How can they connect with you?
They can connect with me on Facebook. My Facebook page is Michelle Hollinger. They can find me on Instagram. There's actually a page on Instagram called Understanding Crack-ers. They can purchase the book everywhere books are sold: Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, independent bookstores. I really prefer, if you're going to order it online, go to a Black-owned bookstore and order it from their website, right? If you want an autographed copy, you can order from my website, which is MichelleHollinger.com. I think, that's where they can find me. And I am in the process of scheduling some events, because one of the things that I discover is when I get out and I have a face-to-face conversation with groups of people. We just did the official launch last week, and having a face-to-face conversation around this book is blessing me tremendously, and it's blessing the audiences that get to hear why Understanding Crack-ers is significant to our liberation, because it allows us to step away from investing so much of our power and energy into that whole dynamic. So, and thank you for having me. I'm so proud of you. I'm so just in awe of what you're doing. And so that I'm on here with you having this conversation means a tremendous amount to me.
Oh, man, I appreciate that. Well, you're now a friend of the show. Please come back. Any updates, any news, any new books, please come back. Guys, if you're looking at the screen, we have Michelle's information up there with her website, Facebook, and Instagram, so you can follow her. Let's go out and buy the book. Buy the book, support her when she has her pop-up events for the book. Let's support her Hello News family. And again, thank you, Michelle, for the work that you're doing in the community. Like I said, I've been following you for a few years, seeing what you're doing, and I'm so happy that I had a chance to get an opportunity to talk to you about this amazing book. Again, give them another shout out on how they can buy the book and support you.
Absolutely. To get an autographed copy, you can go to my website, which is MichelleHollinger.com. The book is also available on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, independent bookstores, anywhere where you can think of buying a book, it's available there. If you are going to order it online, I strongly encourage you to order it from a Black-owned bookstore. Pyramid Books in Boynton Beach has a website online. They definitely have the book available. So yeah, support them if you are choosing to order it online.
Nice. Thank you so much. Guys, this has
Thank
been another
you.
amazing episode of Can We Talk, where we talk to dope people in the community, and Michelle is definitely dope. Guys, thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace.